We play fake news or not with that fall camp news next on Michigan Podcast.
But there's going to be one team that's going to play solely as a team. No man is more important than the team. No coach is more important than the team. The team, the team, the team.
Looks deep for Anthony Carter. Waits for it. Yes, caught.
This is no time for that. In the pocket and a sack. Tim Jamison. Brady gets terrific. Throws it, get it, touchdown, Knight again. Schultz just before Brazil got him. And a leaping interception by Woodson.
Harbaugh back to throw over the middle. Caught by Collier at the 5 on his feet. Touchdown, Michigan. On its way. It's good.
He's 5'7", 179 pounds, a junior at Michigan. But Jamie Morris packs a wallop, and he delivers for Bo Schembechler.
And here's your first play. Pressure coming. Sack. It is Glenn Steele, number 81, who fought his way through the traffic.
Option. And Robinson calls his own number, and he's going to score. Oh, an easy touchdown for Robinson and Michigan.
Win it. We're going to win the championship again because we're going to play as a team. And when we play as a team and the old season is over, you and I know it's going to be Michigan again. Michigan.
Go Blue, I'm Steve Deace, and welcome to another week of Michigan Podcast. My partner at WolverineDigest.com, as well as WTKA Ann Arbor talk show host Michael Spath, will be joining us a little bit later on as we play fake news or not with that alleged news leaking out of fall camp, some of it from the coaches themselves. How much of it are we really buying? Because a lot of sunshine and unicorns gets peddled this time of year. And that's really where I want to begin. I don't care, we get fans. I hear from you in the comments section and in the email and on Twitter all week long. We get fans from teams, not Michigan, that watch us and listen to us each week. And so what I'm about to share with you really amounts to, I think, a good handy tool regardless of who your favorite team is. All right. And these are my 3 rules for fall camp news. All right. How you, as a discriminating consumer, as a person, as a Homo sapien of discernment, how you should handle all of the optimism. That's the word I'm looking for. Optimism that gets peddled this time of year. All right. Rule number 1. Rule number 1 is no news is Gary Gnews, especially because that usually means you escaped serious injury. Now, I need to apologize for the somewhat clunky Great Space Coaster reference, but I just turned 46 years old, and nostalgia is about all I have right now. I'm on the downside of life, as they like to say. But no news was Gary Gnews when I was a little kid. And this time of year, you want to make sure you're not making any news unless there's like a position battle. You got a starting quarterback battle going on. Okay, but that aside, you want to make sure you're not making any news that hits what we call in the biz that bottom third. That little crawler at the bottom of your screen there. We call that the lower, the bottom third. That's the lingo here in the business, Snoop Dogg. You don't want to do anything that makes that unless it's naming a new starting quarterback. Because let me tell you how you make that lower third. Somebody got busted or somebody got broken. All right. Serious injuries. Somebody decided to enjoy the nightlife a little too much or end up in the police blotter. You want to avoid making the lower third news. All right. So no news is Gary Gnews. In fact, if you got this thing on lockdown, quiet as kept, particularly if you think your team's going to be good, we get to mid-August like right now. The ideal situation is you're thinking, man, is this camp ever going to end? When's the season going to get here? Because that means everything's on the down low. Everything is on lockdown. That's what you want. That brings us to rule number 2 for how to interpret fall camp news. Everybody reportedly doing well on your team means someone on your team is not, since they're only playing each other right now. So if you're like, oh man, our defensive front's going to be dope, it's dominating every practice. I read it at the rival site. That means you got some problems on the offensive line there, Sonny. Okay, so the ideal situation is a give and take. There's an ebb and flow through camp. It's competitive on both sides, right? Because you're only playing each other. And so everything's a zero-sum game. If one unit is excelling, it means it's at the expense of another unit, both of them on your team. Okay, so also keep that in mind when you're thinking, oh man, I think our receivers are legit. That could just mean your secondary sucks, right? So again, it's a zero-sum game. You want an ebb and flow where the two sides are playing more give and take. You definitely don't want to go through a camp where one side of the ball or a couple of units are key units are dominating the other, because that means you got trouble right here in River City. All right. And that's fall camp news rule number 3. And it's this one. Consider that coach's pedigree when determining how much stock to put into the unicorn and rainbows this time of year. All right, so Coach Zordich here at Michigan, for example, has a track record of making young players in the secondary instant impact, dependable players. So when he goes and waxes poetic about somebody who has no real experience or is an unproven player, I'm inclined to believe it, right? If you've got a new coach or somebody who hasn't necessarily had a great track record of getting young guys ready to go and perform at a high level, experience be damned. Oh, pretend you live in Missouri and you've got to show me. Okay, so you need to keep that coach's pedigree in mind when you consider how much to let yourself mainline on the Kool-Aid this time of year. Which brings us to Michael Spath. He'll join us a little bit next, or a little bit later on, as in next, as we play a little game called Fake News or Not. All of these are actual headlines coming out of fall camp for Michigan. How many of them, though, are real news, and how many of them are the fake variety? Michael Spath will give us his take next. If you like what we do here at Michigan Podcast, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Several of you do that already. Thank you very much. Just $5 a month. It will get you access to all of our content. And now that the season is here, you're going to get more and more exclusive content here from Michigan Podcast on Patreon, including our exclusive game day reaction, instant reaction podcast. You'll get exclusive access to my weekly point spread picks as well here. That'll be posted right here on our Michigan Podcast Patreon page. And tonight, the Big Ten Network is in Ann Arbor for tonight's practice. 10 o'clock Eastern is going to be the practice special. I'm going to be doing, right after that show ends, an exclusive podcast for our $5 or more a month Patreon supporters right here at patreon.com/Michigan Podcast. That'll be tonight, right after the Big Ten Network special. You don't want to miss that. All right. And those of you that you want to give a little bit more, $25 a month, and join our booster club, where you also will get your name, maybe your business mentioned in the credits, and a shout out on the show. Thank you to all of you that have supported us already. Thanks in advance to those of you that are willing to sign up now that the season is here. Go Blue. And we're back here on Michigan Podcast, and we're joined by my partner at WolverineDigest.com. Also the host of his own show on WTKA in Ann Arbor, Michael Spath is here with us. Michael, good to have you back here on Michigan Podcast, man. How are you?
I'm doing terrific. We're only 2 Saturdays away from the debut of the Michigan football team, and only 1 Saturday away from college football. So every step we inch closer is glorious, Steve.
Indeed. Our long national nightmare, Michael, is almost over. So I want to play...
Well, hold on. Our long national nightmare is losing to Ohio State, not win a Big Ten title. So that we're going to have to wait still a little bit longer to see. But to your point of, without football, yes, that that 9-month nightmare is coming to an end.
Well, that's a national nightmare. What's gone on against Ohio State has been a cosmic punishment, is what that has been, and hopefully that'll end when we get to November. But until then, I want to play a little game with you. Now that we're about halfway through fall camp, we're going to play a little game called Fake News or Not, and I've got a collection of 7 statements that either can be directly attributed to Michigan coaches or what Michigan media has said about the Michigan football team during fall camp. You know, we're trying to figure out what's sunshine and rainbow and unicorns and what's on the real, okay? So we're going to share these 7 statements one at a time, and you're going to tell us, is it fake news or not, and why. You ready to go?
Absolutely.
All right, here we go. Statement number 1. This is the deepest and most talented offensive line Michigan has had in at least a decade. Michael Spath, is that fake news or not?
That is truth. That is truth. When you look at it, Michigan, I would say for the first time in, at least since like 2007, which is more than a decade, you can feel really good about 7, 8, potentially 9 players. The fact that there is a heated competition for the starting right tackle spot, and it's not hey, we're going to play this guy out of default, which a lot of the battles have been in the past. There are 2 legitimate contenders. I think that's a great sign. Steven Spinellis is someone that, you could probably throw on a Lloyd Carr team, a Gary Moeller team, a Bo Schembechler team as someone that just waits in the wings for 3 and now 4 years to get his shot and then takes over when there's finally an opening. And I think we're seeing that from an upperclassman who can play, either guard spot or at center. They feel pretty good about Chuck Filiaga, one of the higher ranked recruits in that class a couple of years ago out of Texas, as an interior player. They've got some youngsters coming up that are in that freshman class between Nolan Rumler, Trenty Jones, that they feel really good about. So this is the first time that I can recall in probably at least a decade where there are 3 or 4 players, but really 3 guys that could all be starting for Michigan but won't start for Michigan. So no, that's definitely not fake news. That is some sweet, sweet truth.
All right. Let's get to statement number 2. Is this fake news or not? This is the fastest defensive line Harbaugh has ever had. Is that fake news or not?
I think that's fake news, and I don't know how to quantify that. When I hear coaches talk about, well, we're faster and stronger than we were a year ago.
Has any coach ever said, Michael, we're slower and fatter than we were last year? Has any coach ever said that, ever?
No, I've never heard that. And also, if you're going to go out there and say, hey, we're a faster, stronger team than we were a year ago, you want to be a little bit like, well, what the hell were you doing last year? Why weren't you strong and fast a year ago? And look, I mean, they had one of the great freak athletes of all time, Rashawn Gary. I can't imagine that Aiden Hutchinson, even though there's a lot of high praise about Aiden Hutchinson, that he's faster than Rashawn Gary. And Kwity Paye up against Chase Winovich. I mean, just 2 years ago we had Maurice Hurst at defensive tackle for Michigan, and he was an extremely quick player off the ball. No, I don't buy into that, just because I think it's more just a coach speak that they like to trot out there, and not really anything that has value. I mean, I guess maybe they've taken all their defensive linemen and they've put them on a 40-yard dash and they've lined them all up and they've taken the average 40-yard dash time and it's the best 40-yard dash time. But until they tell me that specifically, Steve, I think it's just some type of platitude that we hear year after year about them always being stronger, faster, tougher, smarter, any of those that we always hear.
All right. Statement number 3 from Michael Spath as we play some fake news or not here on Michigan Podcast. Running back is the deepest position on the offense.
Ooh, God, who said that one?
Josh Gaddis said that.
Well, I don't agree. I would say wide receiver. is the deepest position, or even quarterback. The fact that you have two legitimate starters at the quarterback position, and your number 3 is one of the higher-end developmental prospects that they've had in a long time in Joe Milton. When I look at running back, I mean, you know, it's a little bit. I heard his comments about how I feel like we could have any guy go in there and carry the ball. But that's because they have so many that are on the same level right now. Yeah, you've got 5 guys that are competing for that starting job, but you also have 4 of those guys that are complete unknowns. So I don't look at that as depth. I look at the wide receiver position where Nico Collins, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Ronnie Bell a little bit a year ago, Tariq Black, who was supposed to be the best player a couple seasons ago, Mike Stainer still, now the rise of Cornelius Johnson, a true freshman wide receiver, hearing good things about. You know, when you've got a lot more proven players and you've got 5 guys at a spot, I feel a lot better about that than I do the running backs. So I would say that's fake news that it's the deepest running back group, or that the running backs are the deepest position on the offense.
All right, statement number 4 as we play Fake News or Not with Michael Spath from WTKA in Ann Arbor. Shea Patterson is playing lights out. Is that fake news or not?
From everything that I've been told, in addition to hearing the comments from Josh Gaddis and from some of Shea Patterson's teammates, I think that sounds legit. You know, being a quarterback in year 2 with Harbaugh, having an opportunity to go through an entire, a second spring ball, an entire second fall camp, a guy who has always had really high potential. We saw some strong flashes of it, especially in September and in mid-October from Shea Patterson. No, I really think that he's capable of taking a big step forward and being the guy that we were kind of thought we were going to see a year ago for the entirety of a season. And it really just didn't. It was up and down. It was some good moments, some not so good moments, but really it just kind of fell off in November there. But no, I've heard some really positive things about it too. So I think with the combination of experience he has, being in Harbaugh's system for a second year, the track record of quarterbacks developing under Harbaugh, especially in year 2, and just his camaraderie, his rapport with the wide receivers, the offensive line, I think that's 100% true.
All right, so we've gone through 4 statements. So far, you're 2-2 on what is fake news or not. All right, we have 3 more.
Okay.
All right, from Michael Spath. Here we go. Josh Ross is the smartest linebacker Don Brown has ever coached.
I mean, if it is, then, I'm not going to say Don Brown is a liar. It's a little bit different than when he says it's the fastest defensive line, because I doubt that they have kept like some type of measurement. If he thinks he's the smartest linebacker he's ever had, then I will trust Don Brown in that particular comment. Again, I don't think that is him quantifying it by having him take an SAT or an ACT or an IQ test. I think he's just really impressed with the knowledge and the instincts of someone like Josh Ross being in the right place at the right time. And I don't think we should confuse him necessarily saying he's the smartest linebacker as the same thing as he's the best linebacker. Because, just because you have all the intelligence in the world doesn't mean that you're always in the right play or that you make the right play at the right time. But, Josh Ross is a kid from Orchard Lake St. Mary's, a prep school here in Michigan that, is very well regarded for its academics. Last year when he played as significantly as he did as both Devin Bush and Devin Gill's backup, one of the things that they raved about him was that he was a very intelligent player. Going back and watching his film, he does seem to be in the right place at the right time. He doesn't take himself out of the play very often. Not necessarily making the play like we saw in the bowl game against Florida. But yeah, I can buy that. I think that's probably truth.
All right, 2 more, so it's 3-2 on fake news or not. Michael Spath says 3 of these have been true. What about number 6? Donovan Peoples-Jones is completely healthy. Is that fake news or not?
That's fake news. That's fake news, and I don't know why. I don't know the incentive, I guess, for it to really kind of for the coaches to say that. when we have heard, and I think, I know that the folks at 24/7 Sports even had a update about it, saying that he had taken some time off. I talked to a practice insider who said that he takes some time off during practices. The doctor that I spoke to over the summer said his groin injury is the kind of groin injury that requires an extensive amount of rest to get it to 100%. Now, you can practice and you can play, you can go out there and compete, and most people won't recognize a huge difference. But when you're done with that game, you need a couple of days to recuperate. So, no, I think that is fake news. I do think that he's going to be effective. I do think that Michigan has a really good plan in place to take advantage of Donovan Peoples-Jones in whatever role he can give them physically. But, there's a reason why so far in fall camp we've heard glowing things about Nico Collins. We've heard really positive reports about Ronnie Bell and about Tariq Black and Mike Sainristil, and we really haven't heard this overwhelming, effusive praise of Donovan Peoples-Jones. And a big part of that is because he can't go out there and be the absolute best that he's capable of because of his groin injury.
All right, our final statement to find out if you think this is fake news or not, Michael Spath. Unless you commit to playing in every game you're healthy for, you will no longer get to be a team captain at Michigan.
So that was kind of intimated by Jim Harbaugh in a podcast, I believe, and then I'm assuming this is the specific words of a member of the media. Is that correct?
Yeah, Chris Ballas of the Wolverine. Yes.
Okay. So, Steve, how are they going to patrol that? They're going to not announce captains until the end of the season? A little Rich Rod-esque? If you name a captain, if Jim Harbaugh, who Chris Ballas has said is going to have much more input on who the captains are, but you still allow the players to vote, okay. Here we go. We're Khalid Hudson. You name Khalid Hudson your starting captain. You believe this guy is all in. He's going to play through some injuries. He's going to play in every game. You go through the Ohio State game. You don't end up making the playoff. And someone tells Khalid Hudson, hey, you're a projected first-round pick in the top 15. And his agent says, why don't you sit out? And Khalid Hudson thinks about it, weighs it, ultimately decides not to play in the game. What's the recourse of him being a captain? They're going to take that C off his jersey. He doesn't get to be like an official captain in the history books of the Michigan football. I don't know how you. I think I actually saw the quote you're talking about. I don't know how you proactively say that. It's really a retroactive thing because. Well,
you're going to have to get them to preemptively give you their word on an honor code that they will play every game that they're healthy for.
Okay, well, what's that worth?
I don't know. If it's not worth much, you probably don't want to name him your captain the other way then, right? If you can't trust him to give you your word, then you probably don't want him to be the captain regardless of what you think about this particular issue, wouldn't you say, right?
Right. No, I agree, but I think to tell a player, look, you're not being named captain unless you 100% promise me that you're going to play in every game that you're healthy. I get it, and I understand Jim Harbaugh being frustrated by a couple of his players sitting out the bowl game last year. But what happens if something comes up, that guy's banged up a little bit going into the bowl game, and it's a meaningless bowl game? I think it's something that we can talk about, but proactively, maybe you get him to sign a contract, and then come January 1st, you're holding that contract in front of his face and saying, you promised me you were supposed to be an honorable guy. I don't know that plays out super well. I think what it ultimately comes down to is, you stress every day to these guys that they're the captains and there is a standard to live up to, and you hope that they do it. But I don't think you can enforce such a rule is all I'm saying.
Final thing before we let you go, and so you thought 3 of those statements were true, 4 were fake news, basically. So final thing before we let you go, Michael Spath, you had a segment on your radio show this morning in Ann Arbor, some of the insights from your practice insider. Can you give us a couple of big, overarching nuggets, themes that you want to pass on to our audience here at Michigan Podcast from what you've heard so far?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. At the quarterback spot, my particular insider is really excited about the possibility of both Shea Patterson and Dylan McCaffrey playing in the same game, not necessarily at the same time, and utilizing a weapon. He compared it to, look, you've got a third down running back, you've got pass rush specialists that come in, you've got guys that now cover slot receivers, you've got a Viper, an entirely creative position. Why would you not, if one of your best players on your offense was Dylan McCaffrey, why would you not find some type of role for him? He acknowledged, though, what you see in practice often doesn't come to fruition in games because coaches get nervous, they get scared. The quarterback, the starting quarterback is playing a certain way. They don't want to disrupt the chemistry and the momentum. But he's excited about that. The running back spot, he said that right now Drew Wilson is the leader to start. And in his mind, the rest of the pecking order was Ben Van Sumer at second, Zach Charbonnet 3, Christian Turner 4, Hassan Haskins 5. Thinks everybody's going to get an opportunity in the first couple of games to showcase what they can do, because even though the coaches create situations and they put these guys in practice scrimmages, you don't really know until the lights go on. 2004, David Underwood and Jerome Jackson are supposed to be the guys. By week 3, by week 4 especially, Mike Hart was the starting running back. That happens, quite often. And then the third big thing he was talking about was actually Donovan Peoples-Jones and Ambry Thomas and their health situation. And mentioned that he thinks Donovan Peoples-Jones is going to be limited throughout the year. Would be surprised to see him return punts because of the explosion that it takes on those particular punts and how that can just be a little bit too much for him to do in a single game. And is that Ambry Thomas, the cornerback? He would be surprised if he's back anytime before the Wisconsin game, and doesn't expect him to come back and be a number 2 cornerback opposite Lavert Hill, akin to a David Long. Thinks it's going to be a year-long process for him to develop and really kind of emerge as a key player for the Michigan defense.
Great stuff, Michael Spath. As always, thanks for joining us this week again here on Michigan Podcast, brother. Go Blue. We'll do it again next week.
All right, looking forward to it already. Thanks, guys.
Take care. Hey, if you want to keep up with what we think about Michigan athletics all week long in between episodes of Michigan Podcast, check out our website at wolverinedigest.com. For example, we've got a brand new story up there looking at all of the potential starting fives in the Big Ten now that Franz Wagner's in the fold for the Wolverines, and you can see where Michigan stacks up against the rest of the conference. There's ways to keep up with our coverage of the football team, basketball. We've added hockey and baseball as well. So a ton of stuff that you can follow along with here. And we have a video each and every morning we put up as a way of just saying kind of good morning and catching you up on whatever the big news was from overnight for the Michigan Wolverines. So you can follow us on the website, recruiting too, at wolverinedigest.com. This week's Twitter results, we asked you which phrase best describes your approach to fall camp scuttlebutt. Almost 50% of you said do more, say less. That's kind of a running joke in the Michigan media because so many of you send them emails and tweets that just say, shut up, do more, say less. I don't want to hear about the coach, how great the team is till they beat Ohio State. 33% of you say trust but verify. I would kind of be in that camp. 19% of you, though, are inject it into my veins. I can't get enough. Let's get to our question of the week this week from Isaiah Morris, who says, the anonymous coach quotes from Athlons still seems skeptical that Harbaugh will truly turn the offense over to Josh Gaddis. Are you? Nope. I mean, it's too late now. They're pot committed, if you will. They have they've reached the beachhead. They've landed on the shore, and then they burn the boats. They can't get back and go back, even if they want to. Essentially, on some level, Jim Harbaugh is gambling his tenure at Michigan on this over the next 2 years. I mean, this is going to be a radical departure, a massive paradigm shift, and it's either the missing link that this program has lacked to take that next step that many of us thought we would take by now, or it's demonstrative of there is no next step under Jim Harbaugh, and this may be as good as it gets, Mr. Jack Nicholson, and then we'll have to have a whole different conversation. So absolutely not. I don't see Harbaugh going back. Absolutely, I believe Josh Gaddis is totally in control for better or for worse. And soon we'll have games and we'll know which one it is. Well, that'll do it for this week's episode of Michigan Podcast. I want to thank all of you for tuning in. Don't forget, like, subscribe, 5-star rate as appropriate, either on YouTube or your podcast platform of choice. Share with all the Michigan fans you know about what we're doing here each week at Michigan Podcast as well. You're our best word of mouth, the best chance for us to continue to grow and get the word out about the maize and blue. You can also follow us all week on Twitter at Michigan Podcast. Some exciting stuff we're going to be announcing soon for Wolverine Digest. You don't want to miss out on that. And thank you as well to our friends at Detroit Sports Podcast for spreading the word about this show each week too. Until the next week and the next episode, go Blue.